Rolling.
So I just want to be clear about one thing, because you're dipping into the rainy day fund, this will have to eventually be paid back. Do you just want to make that?
Yes, it will cause what we call a bow wave, meaning that one-time money in this year to effect a freeze will have to be made up the next year. And I've often spoke against the bow wave. The reason I'm satisfied with this is because the bow wave is quite small, 1.5%, lower than our usual annual operating surplus. So I'm comfortable that we will be able to find that money either in 2018 or continue the one-time rebate in 2018 or until a point where the economy recovers.
Are you confident that, like, next year's pegged at, 2018 is pegged at 4.7, that with the work that's going on, they'll find the efficiencies?
Yeah, it'll be very, very difficult to get that down to another year of freeze, particularly given the 1.5 rebate that we have to put in there. It'll be very, very difficult, but the zero-based reviews are coming up with some really good results now, and there are some other external factors that should lead to some savings in 2018. Normally, I would have preferred to set a 2018 tax rate today, but given the changes in the economy, we felt that it made more sense to defer that and do that at some point next year.
Why do you think it was unanimous? We were looking at some of the usual suspects and they came out in support.
You know, this is such an interesting thing, eh? Last year we passed the budget unanimously for the first time in 3 decades, I think, or more, the operating and capital budgets. So what that really goes to show is that while our council members sometimes like to stand for something or something else, there's actually a remarkable amount of consensus on what to do. And I was very, very pleased to see that pass unanimously today.
Is it just symbolic, do you think, to actually have a freeze like this? Well, you know, when you were
well, it's symbolic, but it's also real, right? So it means that the average home will pay next year what they paid this year, as long as your market value assessment increased or decreased by exactly the average. This is where it gets very confusing. But the average home with the average rate of increase in their assessment will end up paying the same next year as they did this year.
But how important is it from council's perspective for Calgarians to get that freeze?
Oh, I think it was very important. I think that's why you saw it pass unanimously. You know, as you heard, we haven't had a ton more people phoning in complaining about their taxes than we do any June. And we do have a ton of people phoning in saying, mow my park, clean my road, fix the graffiti, and so on and so on. But we also understand that people are in a tough place right now, and we're in actually a very good place. We've been finding efficiencies in our budget every year. We've increased our spending every year since I've been mayor by less than the rate of inflation plus growth, except the flood year. And so it was time to let Calgarians in a little bit more on those savings. Certainly it's a risk, because we need to make sure that a lot of our projections, which we are always very conservative on, still come into place, even though we've been a little less conservative. But I was able to find, with the administration's help, the ability to get there, so I said, let's get there, and I was happy the council agreed with that.
The transit rates, it says permanently. So
yeah, this is confusing. So it means that the 2016 rate will be permanent, so you won't get a double increase in 2017. As things stand, you will still get the budgeted increase in 2017. So in other words, what would have happened in 16 will now happen in 17, but you won't get double.
Next year is an election year. Does this have anything to do with that? You have people already speculating.
You know, there is a lot of positioning, and I was joking last week saying people do know it's a 4-year cycle and not a 3-year cycle, right? We do have another year before the election, but things do sometimes get a little bit silly before the election. But every member of council today was very clear, and I'll even reveal what happened in the in-camera session, in saying this is about the right policy at the right point in the economic cycle. It's not about electioneering. We'll get electioneering next year, I'm sure we will. But this really is about making the right choice today, regardless of what may or may not happen next October.
Can you give any insights to lowering to 1.5? What that means in terms of services, how it'll affect Calgary?
Yes, council was comfortable with taking what we call the first level of service cuts. I don't know exactly what those are yet, because those will obviously be negotiated and will come out in the budget in the autumn to get us to this tax rate. But council was comfortable that there were some things around a little less mowing of low-use playfields, for example, or a slightly smaller growth in the number of hours of Calgary Transit, that sort of thing, in order to get there. And we'll have a good opportunity to actually debate those service cuts one at a time when they come to us in the autumn.
Layoffs?
I wouldn't imagine. Okay, thank you.